Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
With some help yesterday with some help from friend Bob Pence up at Alexander Lake. He was in his cabin, so we coordinated to both head out onto the trail, and he would come my direction and I would head his, and we would meet somewhere in between. So we actually did that without incident quite quickly and easily. And so we have a roughed-in trail now to the Yentna River, and my next step is to get trail markers out and get them ready and get them onto the trail so that when the wind blows, of which it did start blowing again last night, unfortunately, get the trail marked so that we don't lose it. And so anyway, today I said that's the day I'm going to go out and pull out the trail markers, and I'm going to repaint them. I'll show them to you in just a second. And get them ready, and hopefully the next day, tomorrow, I'll go out and put them out on the trail. But, as we all know, to get to the thing that you want to do, you need to do at least 5 other things first. And getting trail markers ready is no exception, unfortunately. I'll show you what I mean. So in the spring, when I pull the trail markers up, I put them away. I've got some 55-gallon drums with the tops cut off of them. And so I put them in there, and then I put a trash bag over the top of them, and that's where they stay for the summer, stay out of the weather for the most part. The problem is, though, is I ripped the bag open to pull them out today to repaint them, and they've got frost all over them. Yeah, so I can't very well paint them when I've got frost on them. So let's go do another step. Let's take them, we're gonna pull them all out of that drum, and put them in a sled. And I'm going to take them over to the generator shed, and I'm going to put them in there. And we are planning on running the generator today. Paula's going to do laundry. Today's a laundry day, she decided. So I'm going to run the generator today, so that building will heat up. So hopefully it will melt the frost that is on these markers. And then I'll pull them out of that building, bring them back over here, and paint them all with fluorescent orange spray paint. And then let them dry, and then go out and put them out on the trail. Yeah. So when it's time to put the markers out, I put them out at about intervals of about 100 feet. So what does that mean? 100, that's over 50 per mile. But the idea being is that when the weather conditions are really bad, fog, blizzard conditions, blowing snow, those markers may be the only thing that lead me out or back home again. And so the idea is I need to be able to see from one marker to the next. And as I have said in previous videos and previous years, there have been numerous times that I've had to actually do that. Go from one marker, look for the next one, find it, go to the next one, and literally work my way home 100 feet at a time. And that's no fun when you're talking 18 miles on the marsh section of the trail. So, but it's critical. And so that's what we'll end up doing. So I need a lot of trail markers. You'll notice on some of the markers we have, see that there, we have JRI written on them, and that stands for Junior Iditarod, because the section of trail that I'm getting ready to mark is also a section of the Junior Iditarod sled dog race trail. So we put those out there to make sure the kids know that they are in fact on the right trail, because oftentimes out there are all kinds of markers that get put up by different people, different races and so on, and it can be a bit confusing. So anyway, in case you were wondering what that's all about, a handful, or probably about 50% of the markers will have JRI on them, so that the kids will know that they are in fact following the correct markers. You'll also notice that these markers have, getting light again, they have a reflective tape on both sides of them so that in the dark they'll reflect light. And then we also have a little blue piece of flagging on here. That blue flagging is unique to the Iditarod, the senior race. Again, to distinguish their markers, trail markers from others. So the Iditarod provides a certain level of support to the junior Iditarod, and one of those levels of support is the trail markers. So that's for the reason for that. And then you'll notice that the tips at the top of the trail markers, or most people will see them as survey markers. They're known also as survey markers or lath, surveyor stakes. Anyway, they have fluorescent orange tops to them so that they stand out against the white snow as well. So you've really got 4 different things going on some of these markers once they're on the trail. You've got the orange top. You've got the blue flagging. You have, in this case, the white reflective tape. It could be orange or red as well. In our case, it's all white reflector tape. We have JRI written on them to show which race it is, and then the marker itself. So those markers set, out in the snow, and we'll show you that once I get them out. They are 4 feet tall, and commercially purchased. And what I like to do, though, is I don't like to just use them one season and throw them away. I collect them all back up at the end of the season, and again, the task here is to repaint them, freshen up that orange paint, make it look a little better and more visible, and get them back out there on the trail. Okay, I got all the markers, or at least a barrel's worth of markers here in the gen shed now. So I've got them laying around. In a little bit I'll be starting the generator up, and it'll run for a couple of hours. It'll heat this building up. Right now it's in the low 20s in here. And I'm going to turn this fan on, and we'll see if we can get rid of this frost and dry them out a little bit over a couple hour period. Okay, next day. You're in the gen shed here overnight, which stayed above freezing because the generator ran for a couple of hours yesterday. Generator shed's super insulated, so it holds heat well. So these are now frost free and look like they're pretty dry, even though they were stacked fairly tight. But now I take it back to the barn and start spray painting. Okay, so spray painting them is just like it sounds. Generally takes 2 hands though, but just a quick spray to get them glowing again. I'll throw them in there, and I just repeat this several hundred times. These fluorescent spray paint spray, let them dry, they'll be ready to go tomorrow. Even out here in the cold, they'll dry up okay. And so I'll fill this barrel full of them so they stand up and don't have a little better chance, a little quicker chance of drying. And so that's the next phase. All right, got a sled full of trail markers. So I'm gonna go all the way to the end and then work my way back. So probably take, I got, I don't know how many I have there. Anyway, head down the trail. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 10, 11 degrees. Sun's starting to pop out, it's supposed to clear up. I'm at what's referred to as the Sucker Lake turnoff. And right now I'm about 7.5 miles from the farm. I'm at about 2 miles from Sucker Lake, 2.5 miles from Alexander Lake, and probably about 3 miles from Rabbit Lake. So this is an intersection and a spot where I typically break down the trail into sections, and when I'm doing work like putting out trail markers or grooming, I'll do the trail in sections, and this is one of the sections. From here back to the farm is one section. From here on to Alexander Lake and beyond is another. So today I'm putting out trail markers from the Sucker Lake turnoff to back to the farm. I built myself a couple of turnarounds here, as I typically do, and this allows me to turn around easily with a groomer and work from one section to the next. So I just make kind of a donut, if you will. You can probably see there. And that allows me to easily turn around with the groomer and groom back between a couple of sections. I got some tracks right there. We've got a lynx here in the area. It was on the trail for probably about 3 miles before it cut off here, and it's headed off in the direction of Sucker Lake, I think. Again, we've got, can we get it here? We've got Denali starting to poke out of the clouds and make itself known. So, at any rate, you can see I've already got some, let's see, I got markers out. And let's see, 7 miles. I got about 140 markers to put out yet today. So I better get to it. A good portion of this 7.5 miles that I am marking right now parallels the Iditarod National Historic Trail. The historic trail is over along that tree line right there, where we are out more in the open. And that's because back in the heyday, the late 1800s through the early 1900s, the trail was used by people going to the gold fields. They think that most people think of people moving by a dog team, but in fact most of the people had to walk. The dog sleds were reserved for freight and the gold coming out. So people having to walk could do on snowshoes, carrying everything they owned, about 20 miles a day in a good day. And of course they didn't have anything near the modern convenience of a snow machine. So most of the trail would usually stay within the tree line because it wouldn't get drifted over and blown away by the winds quite as easily as it does out here in the open like we are right now. But I tend to be more out in the open these days because I have trail markers, I have a snow machine to groom with, and so I can keep that up. I can run a much straighter route. It's more open. I don't worry about trees being down or having to brush. I mean, I still have to do those things, but not nearly as much. But my point is that we are paralleling along here. We're paralleling the Iditarod National Historic Trail for this 7.5 mile section. Back where we make a turn at the Sucker Lake turnoff, we turn away from the Iditarod Trail and start heading to the Yetna River, and that's where we start to diverge. But at this point, we're right along the historic trail.